Hello and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Dr. Westman. Today we're going to be chatting about keto given a bad rap. We also have a bonus for you. It's Dr. Westman's free top 10 fat loss tips. We'll put a link in the description for you. How are you doing, Eric?
Great. How are you, Glenn?
Very, very good. Thanks. Eric, we often hear statements like keto is unhealthy, it's dangerous, don't do it long term, and so many other negative statements. Why do you think this is?
Well, I've been hearing those statements now for 20 years. So when we got into the idea of studying a low carb and keto diet, this was 1998. I mean, it was even worse than now, where people would come to me afraid that eating without carbs and with fat, even just eating a steak, might kill them. I mean, it was the fear and phobia about eating fats and things was really, really bad. And I still hear all the same kinds of criticisms and fear mongering. I call it fear mongering now, and even in the medical world and in organizations, it's called bullying when you tell someone to stop doing something that has all of this research behind it saying that it's good. So while these criticisms still occur today, it's much less than it was 20 years ago, because now there's so much data. If someone's been paying attention to the medical research data, then they don't say that sort of thing. But how information gets out in the medical world is not it's not freely given, it's not freely received, and often it's when I share a patient with another doctor that they kind of, okay, they're open to it. So, and that's a slow process. If I have to share patients with every doctor, I mean, it's not possible. I'm kind of joking about that. But so while I've heard this for so long, I've kind of put it around the other way. In a recent paper, I wrote an editorial in last October, Current Opinion in Endocrinology and Diabetes. I basically said the burden of proof is on all these other people saying that it's bad to prove it, because we don't see it, we're using it, we don't see it. So I have to think there's another agenda going on when someone tells you that it's dangerous, because they don't really know that it isn't.
Now, on a serious note, late last year, there was a very well-known Indian actress that died of kidney failure. And the keto diet was actually cited as the reason for this. What are your thoughts on hearing this?
Yeah, I heard about that, and I was interviewed a few times with some Indian keto groups. And the problem was that the information that I could get was very sketchy. I didn't get any detail about what the person was eating, how they defined a keto diet. Were they doing keto a healthy way, or were they doing it an unhealthy way? As far as kidney disease, I mean, if you have pre-existing medical issues, whether it be kidney or heart or diabetes, you want to do this with medical supervision, with a physician who understands how to use the diet. It can be very powerful. I can take people off medications often in the first day or two of changing the diet. So if you have medical issues, you want to be followed. It wasn't clear to me if the actress was followed by a medical person or not. And then it seemed to me she had pre-existing medical problems. And I don't know of any evidence that keto causes kidney disease in someone who has otherwise healthy kidneys. Now, when you get into the area of someone without healthy kidneys, you're under medical supervision, there's a fear and a long-standing teaching that a higher protein diet is bad. Well, when you do keto correctly, it's not a high protein diet. So there are all of these weird sort of, it must have been, the protein in the food. Well, when you do keto correctly, you're eating about the same or maybe even less protein than before. So the details were very sketchy, and it's really hard to know. But I do know that a lot of people are quick to quick to draw to to blame a keto diet because it's new, brand off, off the street, new in some areas. But no, actually it has years and years and years of credible experience behind it if you do it right. So when I kind of cringe when I see that in the news, because, if you were blaming a drug, for example, you have the company to come out and say, well, wait a minute, you need to give me more proof before you implicate a drug for causing something. There's no one really to back up or to say for a keto diet, hey, wait a minute, you have to have some level of certainty before you blame something. And so right now you can blame a diet, a keto diet, or any diet for that matter, for doing something because there's no one there. Like there's no legal team to protect it. You can just say it and then, it gets into the media and then people believe it. There's no filter, no level that you have to prove that something's actually causal. You can just say that it was. So actually, I've read a lot of the anecdotal reports of keto causing problems in the medical literature. There are a few, and if there are millions of people doing it and there are only a few studies, that kind of reassures me. But when you read these anecdotes, they never really ask people what they were eating. They say the person said they were doing a keto diet or the Atkins diet or whatever, without exploring, well, what did that mean? And so that's the fundamental, well, then you really don't know what they were doing. If you didn't really ask them and know what they were eating, you're just taking their word for doing it. You don't know if they did it right. You don't know how they were taught. You don't know who taught them. So it's really just raising confusion, which, again, I think there are people who don't want you to do a keto diet for various reasons. And they'll use this kind of information against the keto diet when it really wasn't the keto diet that did it.
Let me ask you and set the record straight. I'm going to ask you a couple of facts or myths on certain topics. So fact or myth, keto puts strain on the kidneys.
A myth.
Fact or myth, keto should only be done for short periods of time.
A myth.
Fact.
I get the trend here. I think the next one's a myth.
Fact or myth, keto is not sustainable or healthy.
Yeah, it's a myth.
And last but not least, fact or myth, keto will cause my arteries to become clogged.
It's a myth. And that one is tough to, pun intended, tough to swallow, because we were all taught that eating fat and the type of diet, a low carb diet, was bad for us, but again, 20 years ago, we were using a different kind of phone. You come across something, you prove it, you're using it. You don't tell people they can't use their smartphone when you were taught that you used one with a cord. I mean, so those who want to know more about it, we teach just as much as we can. I've taught this at medical meetings over the last 10 years. The Obesity Medicine Association is one of them, and I'm a past president of that organization. So it's actually in the medical mainstream, organizationally speaking, in the US.
Now, that leads me to my next point, which is how do you go about educating doctors who are under the impression that keto diets are harmful? You just mentioned that you're part of the Obesity Association, and maybe you can speak about that. For example, am I correct in saying there are over 2,000 doctors now registered? I don't know what the current numbers are right now.
For the Obesity Medicine Association, yes, you can be trained at an advanced level in obesity medicine by the American Board of Obesity Medicine. There are over 2,000 doctors and nurse practitioners, PAs, things like that. And most of them understand, if they don't use a keto diet, at least they are aware of it and aware of how it can be so useful. But it's tough because you might say, let's bring together experts and see what they say about diets. And every year, about this time of the year, I have to do damage control for the U.S. News and World Report. It's a journal, a magazine that rustles together experts about diet, and they rank all the diets. And keto was one of the worst diets on their ranking list. And when you look, when you really look at it, it's about as silly as having all of in the Olympics, for example, I have all of the judges from one country. And then, oh, by the way, all of the US judges said the US figure skater was the best. So everyone's biased toward the people who are from their country. That's just the way it is in the Olympics. So you have different judges from different countries, right, do the judging. So the US News and World Report get the same judges of the diet, these experts. None of them have any expertise in the keto diet. So of course it's going to look bad. And then if you only look at studies from some places, they say that one of the best diets is one that the doctors in the Obesity Medicine Association never use. So it's impractical. So anyway, I would love to see a panel of and I know it won't happen because there are other, well, I hope it happens, but there are other forces that want people on the panel because it's influential. The companies that make products want to be represented in those sorts of judges, the judge panel. But that leads to confusion. I mean, doctors can go directly to the medical literature and read about it for themselves, but most of them don't have the time to do that. So going to organization meetings, taking CME, continuing medical education in an area like this will give you the proper information. And we're trying to educate as many people as we can, direct to the consumer to use it, but then also at the physician health professional level. That right pre-COVID, the Academy for Nutrition and Dietetics, the new name for the American Dietetic Association, had a meeting in Philadelphia, and I gave a talk there. There were about 1,000 people in the room, and so the mainstream is coming around. Jeff Volek and Steve Finney, colleagues of mine through the years, were also giving talks at the AND in Philadelphia. Their meeting is called Fancy, that one anyway. And so I think things are changing, but it changes very slowly in the organizations because we were all taught that it was bad, and but that's changing. I'm glad to say.
Now, something that I'm very, very proud of our association, meaning myself and yourself and the ADAPT Association, is right up in the beginning when 6 years ago when we first met. One of the first things you did is that you actually invited me to your clinic, myself and Yale, and you let us shadow you there and look, and actually have a look at how you go about educating your patients, what you do with your patients. I got to learn firsthand what they had to say. Returning patients that have been returning for a number of years and seen their successes. Now I know that you've also got an open door policy where you do. You've not only done this with myself and Yale, but you've done this with many doctors and interns. And what is? Just speak a little bit about that. What is your policy, your own personal policy with regards to educating those who want to listen and learn?
Yeah, well, when I was looking back and reflecting upon how I learned about this, one of the big hurdles that you need to overcome is just, well, there are 10 of them probably to overcome. Does it work? Is it safe? Can you really eat fat? How do you teach it? All that. So Dr. Atkins invited me to his office. Actually, that's how I got to learn about it, learn about their method and others. And then we studied it back at Duke. So some years passed and I realized, wow, the only way I could kind of wrap my head around all the different things going on was to invite people to my office. And so I do that at medical meetings, and I can't just let any person off the street in because of the privacy rules and things like that. But for people who understand the privacy rules, and I have an open door policy, meaning time permitting, and I have a lot of time to do this. You're welcome to come to my office, sit in for a half day. People have traveled all over, and that experience was chronicled in a recent book called The Case for Keto by Gary Taubes, because in the introduction, he tells the story of Dr. Sue Wolver, who travels from Richmond down to Durham to my place, to my office, and she catches fire about the keto diet, and now she has one of the best academic practices that uses a keto clinic. So yeah, I think even today, that's an important thing If you're really curious about it as a medical practitioner or dietitian, then go visit someone. Fortunately, now there are people all over the country. You don't have to make the trek to Durham like you had to. There are other people, and I think there's a clinic in Cape Town now, so you wouldn't have to travel that far in South Africa. But that I'll do that as long as I can, and to help people just understand the potency, the power of it. There's a whole nother field of pharmacists who are developing the training and the construct, the term even, de-prescribing. And this is Sean McKelvey out of Vancouver, Canada, and he helps other pharmacists understand how to take people off medication, which is de-prescribing. Once you're on an effective lifestyle, like a keto diet, you can take people off diabetes and high blood pressure and heartburn and arthritis medicines. And so that's kind of cool to see the pharmacists kind of come alive and take advantage of the power of a keto diet.
In closing, Eric, I know that you've been seeing patients in your clinical setting for nearly 20 years now. And obviously, if it was not safe to do, or there were any problems with the keto diet, a lot of those people wouldn't be, returning. Do you still see patients that you saw right up in the beginning? And
Yeah.
And how's their health?
Well, I do, and one of them is me. Well, I mean, I'm not a patient, but I learned about the program as I was doing my first study, starting in 1998. So I've been following the keto diet, low carb, high fat, however you want to say it, and I've been following. Many of my patients like to check in. If you've had a significant weight or diabetes history, there's always this kind of nagging feeling in the back of your mind that it's all going to come back. And so a lot of people want that follow-up over time. It might be that I see someone once a year just to check in, but then they know if something comes up, they can contact me and I'll respond to them. But yeah, I have a lot of people have been using it 15, 20 years. And in an academic community like this, if I was causing harm, the other doctors around me whose patients that was harming would tell me. I mean, they would be angry with me. Actually, other doctors send me their patients because I send them back better, or then they're able to operate. Orthopedic surgeons, heart transplant surgeons send me their patients because I don't use drugs. I don't use surgery because these are higher risk people. You want to use something that's effective, but still rather gentle compared to those other things.
Fantastic, Eric. Well, thank you so much again. Folks, that's it for now. Don't forget to grab your bonus. It's Dr. Westman's free top 10 fat loss tips, and the link will be in the description. If you'd like to learn more about the Adapt Your Life Academy and our upcoming courses, we have some exciting new courses that are going to be starting in the month of March. We currently have the Keto Made Simple Masterclass. And we are launching a brand new course, a very, very exciting course coming up soon. So go check us out at www.adaptyourlifeacademy.com. Eric, thank you so much. And on behalf of Eric and myself, this is us signing off of another Conversations with Dr. Westman. We look forward to catching up again in a week's time, same place, same time. And until then, thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you, Glenn.
Bye.
If you like this video, you're going to love our Adapt Your Life Academy. So click on the link in the description to find out more.